panelists once again to today's discussion on the critical action points, especially for the mid-tier tech companies for the foreseeable future in the next 1 year. We have quite an esoteric mix of panelists today. From Bangalore, Uday Birje with us. Uday has over 25 years of experience in entire IT, telecom and networking industry. And he started with HCL HP, and later he was part of Digital also. And then he was managing director of Cabletron for India and South Asia. He also set up a company, networking startup, Net Devices in India, which was later acquired by Alcatel-Lucent, and Uday served in Alcatel-Lucent as a director for India and Middle East. Then Uday was a country manager for HP's network business. In 2014, he set up ThinkStreet Technologies, which is a startup to develop basically the GTM strategies for the startup ecosystem in India, US, APAC, and Middle East and Africa regions. In addition to that, Uday is involved with the New Age Incubation Network. This is an initiative of Government of Karnataka, and he is also part of the Atal Innovation Mission of Niti Aayog, the Government of India. And he's an alumnus of Harvard Business School, US, and Uday is a veteran in this industry. Our next profile is Ramdas S. He is the CEO, founder of NetZari Infodynamics in Bangalore. Ramdas has over 25 years of experience overall in the tech industry, out of which the first half of that was more as a tech journalist. He's a quite well-known B2B journalist also. And the last second 12 years has been more as an ISV. For the past 5 years, he has been running NetZari. NetZari is into SI, managed services, as well as they do customs service development. We have Kailash Gupta. He's from Jaipur. He's the director and CEO of ETSC Computers. Kailash is a 1980 BITS Pilani pass out, and he has been working with the IT infrastructure solutions domains for nearly 35 years now across Rajasthan. He's also currently the president of BITS Alumni Association of Jaipur, and he's also on the board of directors of BITSA International. And he is also in the mentor panel of Thai Rajasthan chapter, and basically looks after fostering young startups and entrepreneurs. We have Vipul Datta here today. Vipul is a CEO of FutureSoft, and he has been with this organization for 26 years. FutureSoft is quite a large organization in this space with nearly 1,500 employees. And the current focus is to basically realize value for the team and investors. FutureSoft is a CMMI level 5 company, and it's all set to achieve 100% year-on-year growth for the next few years. We have Tushar Parekh also here. Tushar Parekh is a managing director of Silicon NetSecure, and the Silicon has been one of the pioneers in areas of information security, availability, and cloud solution. And he comes with more than 20 years of experience in this field, and has been working with both large corporates and public sector companies. Incidentally, Tushar is also the chairman of ACERT, and he was the ex-chairman of ISODA. These are the associations of software partners, and ACERT is the Association of System Integrators.
I've been fortunate enough in the last 4.5 to 5 years, been interacting with the government, both with Niti Aayog and specifically with Government of Karnataka, more so in the startup space. Okay, but let me give you. I think I've been keen. I have been keenly following some of the announcements that have happened in the last 2 years, 2 days from Government of India. So some significant announcements, significant opportunity for specifically the SMEs and MSMEs to go and recapitalize their companies. And one, I don't have the the specific I would say the scheme or whatever, which we I think which will get announced over the next week or so. But one specific thing is the loans without any collateral. I think that is a significant opportunity for people to go and capitalize their businesses, which means they can borrow some extra money to fund their maybe the operations, as well as maybe fund their inventory and various other parts of their operations. But before that, I want to specifically mention that, see, it's a given fact that more than 50% of the companies, especially in the MSME category of companies, are going to go through some kind of a liquidity crunch. Okay, it is a given. There is no need to even think about it, because customer payments will get delayed. Revenue there will be a revenue shortfall, and various factors will come into play. So how do we overcome that? See, in fact, last 2 to 3 days, I have been addressing a few other webinars. Very clearly, what we have noticed is whether it is the CEOs or leadership people, they are shy to go and ask for reduction in, let's say, as an example, in rentals. So today, people want to help. You can go down to your landlord and say that, hey, can I, take a 10% or a 15% reduction in the rent? So that will automatically bring your, cash flow burden significantly lower. So these are some of the factors that you need to, bring in to, recapitalize yourself. So let me give you one example also in Government of Karnataka. Government of Karnataka has invited some COVID-19 related companies, not for funding. They have, in fact, today was the last date, but they will obviously keep on in the next, I would say, 2 quarters, they'll keep coming with more such schemes. What they have said is, if you have some great innovative solution, they will not fund, but each of the departments will buy from you, which means if you have some great sanitizing solution or great solution which will bring down some of their operational cost in some of the departments or the ministries, they will evaluate you and buy from you. I think these are some of the things that you have to factor in to bring in that to reduce the liquidity burden that you have, as well as recapitalize your operations. So specifically the schemes, I don't have the names of the schemes. I think over the next 1 week or so, we will get to know the names of the schemes and how the the procedure is and things like that. But government, I think in the last, especially the yesterday's announcement, has some very, very good scheme for the MSMEs and the SMEs.
So we're doing 3 things. One, we're talking to our people every week. And while we're talking to them, we're not taking knee-jerk reactions. So amongst the senior leadership with my colleagues who manages finance, HR, as well as the automation and the rest of the departments, we have a collective call and we take a decision for the month. And we stick by that decision for a month. So I'd like to start by saying we have held on to everybody who's working with the organization. And we don't intend to let go even one team member in these troubled times. Having said that, it has been a tough task. As Uday said, we didn't shy away. He gave a suggestion. So we reached out to all our potential lenders, whether it is the service providers or the landlords, or wherever we had the monthly committed cash flows, or we have a lot of automation in place. We reached out to each one of them, asking them not for a reduction in price, but giving us a price reduction, which would be paid back to them maybe 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line, and the business improves. And we've been lucky enough that each and every partners of ours have supported in allowing us to reduce our cash flow exposures. We've been in constant touch with our compliance team as well as our consultants, keeping track of what the state governments and various state governments are asking us to do with regard to our compliance payouts. And wherever we have a firm assurance that we can delay the payments for compliance, even with a minor interest at a later date, we're holding on to that. So we're controlling our cash flow and using that to ensure that every team member is paid for. The senior leadership team of almost 25 members have accepted a voluntary cut, which is again with the same promise that once the business resumes and cash flow situation improves, this salary would be paid back to them. And this has been taken in writing from each of the members that this is a voluntary reduction in the salary today. It complies with the norms and the obligations we have as business owners from government, giving us a mandate to pay everybody and do not. As we go along, we are engaging with each and every employee of ours, and we're bringing the sensitivity with regard to what our current business strength is, what our challenges are, and what are we seeing in future. And the future is not 1 month, 2 months. We're looking at 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarters, and it's certain that the cash flow would continue to be a challenge, while business may not be. We have all contractual revenue, so business is not an issue. Cash flow would be, and there is so much can you do in acquiring money from market and use that to pay for the expenses. So we intend on calling out for more voluntary reduction from team members, and based on that, control our cash flow. We've also controlled our cash flow in terms of traveling expense. We are 100% work from home today. All our offices are completely shut down. So there is a definite saving on that account as well. Frankly, other than this, we are very, very strongly following potential areas of attacking a short, low-hanging fruits. And we are encouraging customers to make payments to us in advance, and we're giving them cash discounts. So those are the ways we're trying to keep people connected. We're taking care of our moral as well as official responsibility of taking care of their requirements. But in times to come, I am very confident we'll keep going back to our team for their support, because with their support is when we will be able to overcome the current challenge. There is no way we're going to let go any of our team members, and everybody will have to find the same mix. I'm very confident if we talk to our family members, team members, they'll understand the situation and they will cooperate.
So as rightly said by Vipul Bhai, in terms of what he points out in terms of retaining his employees, I think we are also following the same practice over here. But again, a couple of changes or the things that we had done over a period of time for us as an organization was that we have been predominantly using cutting edge technology in terms of our working or actually doing things in a more digital way. For some of the examples to give out is probably we're using CRM since last 9-10 years. Last year we migrated our company to a ERP solution, which has helped us quite a bit. By the time that this work from home situation came up, we were able to easily migrate our working scenario without any glitches onto the work from anywhere solution, rather than it's not only work from home, it is work from anywhere. So for us that has been quite helpful. Besides that, another change that we brought across, something so basic as our accounting. We earlier were, of course, as what most of us use, we've been on Tally for our CA convenience and everything. But this year we adopted QuickBooks, which has helped us quite a bit in terms of, first of all, it's cloud-based, and in terms of working, it's been really convenient. And then besides that, we use digital signatures for our invoicing. So everything is completely digital more than anything else. So that is one. Besides that, some of the things that we feel that everybody needs to look at is business model of our organization with a flow chart. Role defining with documentation and detailed documentation and job responsibilities, which have to be very well defined. Now, we started doing this process because it is something that is, this scenario, the way it is or the way we are looking at it, will be going on for quite some time. And this entire year at least, we want to cut down, as government has mentioned, that we should work at 50% workflow or 50% of our staff. So that's exactly what we are looking at. And so we have combined a couple of things like employee monitoring tool, carefully reviewing each and every member of our team. What is the work that they are doing? What is the value that they are bringing to the table? Besides that, I think what others need to also look at is a hybrid mix of work from home and on-prem, however it suits everybody's business. And, given the current scenario that by the time that, of course, us being based out of Mumbai, and for a lot of us, trains are a major, for a staff, trains is a major way of communication or commuting. So in that case, what happens is that, people need to get moving in trains, which is again a high risk. So we will be assessing this situation by June end, and probably coming to a conclusion whether when do we actually look at starting our work. But from the looks of it, it is June end or mid-July that we are looking at
it. See, there's something which I'm kind of telling myself, as well as whenever I talk to other partners, other companies which are in similar size of Nedzari. See, Nedzari is not a very large organization. The highest turnover we have reached was around 16 crores last year. We are a mid-sized organization. We are an MSME. We are a registered MSME. We don't have a large management team. See, one of the things which I am telling myself is that, okay, there's nothing wrong with what we did, but the timing was wrong. I mean, we were expanding in March, and then the COVID lockdown happened. That's affected us for the next, it's going to probably affect us for maybe a few more months, but we are taking the corrections over there. But if you have a killer idea, if you have some kind of a distinct advantage in the market, it might be a great source for your sourcing products, or you might have some specific advantage, then you should not, that should not deter you from expanding your business, because this is a phase what we are going through. I believe this is going to continue for about 3 or 4 months. But as long as the fundamentals of your business is correct, if you will be able to get through it. This is what I believe. And this is something which I'm kind of telling myself at this point of time. But if this is a great time to start new branches or this thing, no, definitely not. That's a no-brainer. But if you're doing any kind of business realignment, which is based on strong fundamentals, this is probably the time to go ahead with it. Maybe not like this month, but maybe as soon as the market opens, you should start exploring them. No one should, I will not discourage anybody from, trying out, because you need to remember, history has taught us that the greatest innovations happened during the Great Depression in the late 20s and 30s in US. So why not? And that can happen to a smaller company, a mid-sized company, or even a company which is smaller than us, should be able to do something which is probably path-breaking.
So since I've worked in IT infrastructure domain, and predominantly we are catering to the larger segment, which includes government as well as SMBs. What I feel is that this pandemic has put a lot of pressure on, or rather it's a evolution of the way we work. As rightly said by some of my co-panelists, is that work from home is here, it is going to stay. Now coming to the CapEx part of it, you see, all organizations will have to look into the things that they will have to operate not more than 33% of the manpower, at least for some time. And eventually, as we see that this is going to stay, so for at least 1 year, we have to see that, not more than 40 to 50% manpower may not be may be allowed in the office, and rest will have to work from home. So there will be devices in respective organizations, which will be either desktops, laptops, tablets, or whatever. So each organization has to look at their current inventory of infrastructure, and out of that inventory, some of them they have to put as a BYOD. Also, they must be having, so they have to allocate BYOD. Then comes a laptop. So that is the first thing they should do. Secondly, most of the companies are coming out with a plan of now offering VDIs, which is virtual desktops. So the advantage with these virtual desktops is not only they are cost effective, but you don't have to worry about the data security and other aspects, because they all operate on through cloud. So I think majority of mid-sized companies will switch over to a VDI kind of a thing, wherein they can play around with only the user login part of it, and rest will all be managed on cloud, and that is very much manageable by a central console. And there are companies like thin client companies and other companies wherein only browser will be required on the device. It could be a mobile device, it could be a tablet, it could be a desktop or a laptop. All will work on a remote desktop console mode. So I really tend to disagree with whatever, on CapEx front, that will be a load. Yes, there will be a load wherein there is additional inventories required, but going forward, since this is going to stay longer, or maybe you do not know, maybe 1 year or 2 years, you'll have to plan on that aspect of working from remote. Secondly, now companies are also coming out with the models called DaaS, which is a device as a service. And even on the lease front, they are working out on a model called rental devices, or rental devices which will be equipped with everything. You don't have to worry about the tools which will go into, security tools that will go into it, manageability of that, remote management of that. So all that will be monitored by the companies which offer these services. So there's a new evolution of infrastructure will develop now, which will enable work from home without having to have to worry about much of CapEx. It will be an OpEx model, and OpEx is here to stay. OpEx is going to be the life in times to come.
To handle this liquidity challenge, we have to go and cut cost or reduce the expenses. I think from what I have been discussing in the last, let us say, 15 to 30 days with various companies, some of them startups and some of them slightly, startups that have scaled up to some good revenue, up to 15 to 20 crores. So you need to bring down the expenses up to 20 to 25%. And how is that possible? One, I mentioned very clearly, the biggest expense for all of us is real estate. And it can be done in multiple ways. I think people like Tushar and Kailash and Vipul, they all mentioned that work from home, I think, is the best option. And I think there is no need to even rethink on that. This is going to be the new world order for the next few years, I guess. So which will bring down the office space requirement significantly. Even if for some reason, if you're not able to bring down the office space, go down to the landlord and ask for either reduction or ask for deferred payments. He'll be happy to help. Then I have noticed even today, some of the MSMEs or SMEs continue to make payments either in cash or check or various other non-digital payment modes. I would urge everybody to move over to digital payments. Okay, use whichever modes that you have, whether it is to your own employees or vendors, or you're receiving payments from your customers. Mandate everybody to make it completely digital. So that will bring in a lot of savings, including going to the bank, or so many other factors will come in. And also maybe, see, there is, I know it is a little bit of a sensitive topic. I think some organizations have very heavy finance and operations organizations. Some part of it could be outsourced to some companies, which will which will bring down the cost, especially on the finance and accounting side. So that is one aspect. Then, see, I'm also speaking from my experience. I'm fortunate, or I can say unfortunate enough, to see two big recessions in the past. One is when September 11th happened, and the second one is 2008. I was in the midst of some very, very big leadership positions during that time. So the first thing is obviously to ban all kinds of air travel or whatever. So I think the travel is going to start from June, July, but mandate all sales guys or anybody who is traveling to bring in, to cut sales travel and increase this. And this is a great example. What we are doing today is a great example. Sales people, customer support people, operations people, project managers, specifically project managers, the mega project managers. I've seen in my last organization, we used to have calls with up to about 100 people, initiated their project manager. Do this on these kind of either in Zoom or the Microsoft or Google tools or whatever it is. So there will be automatically reduction in cost and your liquidity situation will significantly improve. I think, so there are more tools, but these are the top ones, I think so. See, I was going to give you one more example, which I talked about, digital payments. See, when this demonetization happened about 2 years back, obviously it is controversial. Many people like it, some people don't like it. But in my own house, we have almost about 4 or 5 different organizations or individuals to whom payments have to be made. Everything is digital. We make it, no more checks or no more cash. So this we have to bring in consciously. This will bring down the cost and this bring down the operational expenses, and it will make it faster and easier for people to, transact and liquidity situation. These are the small steps. Some of the small steps which ultimately add up and improve the liquidity situation.
First is from internal adoption, from our own company's consumption perspective. I think we've covered enough on work from home using the VDI as a concept or any device as a concept. And that holds true for our customers as well. So customers will definitely spend money in enabling their users to connect using work from home as a concept. Digitization had a very long tail approach in the past. This is what we've been conceptually hearing. What we see and what we're hearing now in our recent interaction with customers, I think digitization as a concept will have a huge role to play when government goes on to implement supply chain automation solutions, process automation solutions, last mile delivery services. That's where IoT and digitization would have a huge role to play. From a consumer and from a corporate perspective, the sense we're getting by talking to very, very large enterprises, mid-sized enterprises, and the SMEs, I think focus for all of them right now is to enabling workforce accessing the application and the business. All other business initiatives have been put on hold. The one initiative, what I think, taking cue from what Uday sir just said, they will bring in a lot of consolidation of business transaction on digitization, which means that they will bring in a lot of mobile application integration for business integration. So business, which is being accessed through portals or through web or through online applications, would be accessed through mobile applications, which will then have backend authentication from various digital platforms. So that is the area which we see investments would be done. The other aspect of digital transformation, wherein talking about creating digital strategies for the organization, creating new business plans which are based on social marketing and social media presence, those initiatives we see will take a backseat in the near future.
Personally, for some of us who are enabled on security and cloud solutions as well, enabling new customers or acquisition is not that much of a challenge, because customers are actually looking out for such solutions where they want, as rightly said by Vipul Bhai again earlier, people are looking at a solution when they get security, mobility, all and monitoring included into a single package. So in fact, one of my customers I was speaking with yesterday, he also specifically, again, NBFC. So he specified that why can't we have a solution which would have something, a mix of all of that into a single solution. And if you can package it and sell it across to them, they would be more than happy, or most of the corporates would be more than happy to look at it. Because people are looking at data security, per se, specifically data leakage prevention, your data encryption, your MDM solutions again, and employee monitoring all put together. So that is what is currently and of course, cloud solutions, cloud migration solutions. So these are just a few of the solutions what people are actually looking at. Again, what I would urge members of our association or probably members of the IT community to look at is to make a list of all your customers, and prospects, talk with them, understand what the issues are. It may not be necessary that they may be your current customers, but they may be prospective customers whom you had interacted to earlier. Given the current scenario and the way we are looking at business, of course, there is going to be a drop in numbers. But if you talk with them, understand the problem, give suggestions, that is one of the best ways that you can communicate. Understand, don't sell a product. Always understand where the issues are. And support your existing clients, in terms of, whatever they're looking out for in terms of cost reduction, in terms of, if there is some minor cost reduction they're looking at. Some of our customers have come back to us who are in the retail segment, and they have asked specifically that, since this is the scenario for a longer time, we would want a cost reduction to happen. And we had to help them out in this situation. So we said, okay, for the time being till this lockdown, we will not be billing you, or at a discounted rate we'll be billing you. So however that works out for individually all of you, individually all.
Problem or this issue can be addressed in a completely different way. Organizations would have two facets to it. One is a sales organizations who owns the relationship. Today, we've been very conservative in dealing and offering services we strongly believe we can take ownership for. Hence, our business engagement is structured or pillared in a domain we offer our services. I believe like work from home has been a concept with us for 15 years as the BPO surged in the country. And they kept being pushed back by DOTs, some channel issues, some compliance issue. You can't go for work from home. And COVID has brought us to that stage perpetually overnight. And everybody's talking about we're literally surviving out of work from home. I think it's time for MSME partners, SIs, and service organizations to partner amongst themselves. No organization has the capacity to offer end-to-end services or product our customer needs. But you have a partner who can complement what you don't do. You have the relationship with the customer. Find execution partners. So the sales partners who have relationship should look for trusted execution partners. It maximizes your revenue potential. Execution partners should look out for sales partner because they have the capability to deliver. This maximizes the potential of revenue growth and profitability and gives you a larger potential sustenance in option. And this is what we are working as Futuresoft. So we are reaching out to friends and trying to identify if there are sales partners who have customer relationships and there is a trust between us and their leadership, and we can piggyback on their relationship to acquire business which they have not been participating. Likewise, use their capabilities in areas wherein we don't have focus areas or we don't have SMEs in place. So it's time we partner amongst us. That is another area of increasing the revenue because customer is still spending.
As such, there are certain solutions, in fact, when you spoke about current customer retention, we have been deep selling within our clientele, to our customers. There are currently the main solutions are hybrid cloud, zero trust, DLP, data security, which is of a high importance in today's date. And again, what I believe at the moment, what we should really look at is retaining your employees and customers and sustain the organization for the next year to come.
I think legal route and all in India is just, probably would take many years to get a settlement. So that's, so it has to be a relationship route. what we are trying to do is that we are keeping things very, very transparent. Where there is likely to be payment delays from our customer, we are going back and telling the distributor, telling the vendor, saying that, okay, these payments are likely to be delayed. What is that we can do? So far, we've been, both distributor and vendors have given us time to figure out, okay, how fast can you collect and pay. Beyond this, one of the things is that we are an MSME registered company. So some of, you're not supposed to delay payments to MSME company. I mean, ROC or one of those bodies do take an interest in case of MSME companies. That's something which has been there for some time. More than we applying for a loan, I don't think that's going to be a plan to settle probably our distributors. We would like to get our customers to apply for MSME loan so that they can settle us. So we still don't know how fast the MSME loans are going to be issued. I believe a couple of my customers have told that the banks have told them to come back after a week. But beyond this, I think the relationship is the only route at both at our at the customer end as well as our vendor end to manage the scene. And I think it is a question of next 90 days. Next 90 days is going to be very, very critical. Next 90 days, if you're lucky, you're able to pay back, yes, things should be very smooth from there. Should not have any major problems. And we would also, by the time, figure out how to run business, whether we downsize the operations, whether we, lay off people or, retrain and rehire new personnel, whatever it is, the strategies will evolve on its own. But yes, right now, I can tell you that I spoke with at least 20, 22 people, peers in the industry. This is their biggest worry.
Market wherein we are working is we are divided into 2-3 segments. And the payment modalities are also different for these segments. So if you talk about government per se, then government includes, the supplies through JAM or through tenders or direct, whatever the mode may be. Secondly, there is a, private payments, which is in a B2B mode or a B2C mode. Now, as far as the first one is concerned, though there are rules and regulations like MSME does give a protection that, okay, after 45 days, if the payments are outstanding, you can escalate it to MSME council and they will probably look at the delayed payment. Similarly, for the GEM, they have escalation system and then you put the escalation and they possibly will try to get your payments done. But the practical aspect of this is even government does not have priority to release this money. So there will be a stuck of payment because they are also taking the plea that we do not have any sanctions granted to us and like that. So payments are likely to get delayed even from the government despite having MSME protection or GEM protection, number one. Number two, in the B2B and B2C scenario, as rightly said, it is a customer relationship which will play an important role. But customer is also sort of stuck into their payments where he used to supply. So there will have to be a mutual kind of a request only. Litigation will not work. But at the same time, I think associations can play a bigger role. Not only to upfront take it with the government as well as private bodies to kind of maintain this cash flow and payment system so that everybody is benefited in the chain. So that is my submission that we should take a larger role in terms of pushing it through associations, be it a government payment or a B2B or a B2C. The contracts or the delivery orders or the supply orders that you had pre-lockdown conditions and which you already serviced, and there will be some wherein you have the contracts on the POs in your hand but could not be delivered during lockdown. And third, which will be the scenario forward where as the time goes as to when the fresh orders will come and fresh deliveries will happen. I think lockdown is almost in a semi-mode, it is over, and it is all our persuasion or the understanding or the relationship with the customer should play to take out those payments. And the delivery is already made, so there is no hassle on that. So I think that is one part we should continue pursuing that. Second, which are yet to be delivered, I think we should go back to the customer and ask for the validation because many of the customers may not even the priority might have changed and they may not even accept the material. So in such situations, it is better to approach or reapproach to the customer and take a fresh consent, and then try to execute those things. And going forward, you see now that logistics is also going to be a drastic change, because customer is going to be very, very, very about contactless delivery and hygiene and all those things. So there we'll have to adopt technology, or maybe in between aggregators like maybe Swiggy, Zomato, who are working for food chain, but there will be similar aggregators for delivering material from A location to B location, and maybe on a more systematic manner, an efficient manner, and maybe in a kind of a contactless system. Because if you have to retain your customer, the first thing you will require now is that I will keep dealing with you provided you maintain the hygiene. Similar thing, you'll have to maintain it from your suppliers, because you would also like to follow the guidelines of safety for your staff, for your people, and for maybe your organization. So the way supply chain is going to work now, maybe for your customer or for yourself, I think is going to go through a fundamental change of contactless deliveries, and you may have to work out different logistic arrangements rather than traditional your own logistic arrangements.
First is, I am not aware of the order, but I know in some states, especially in UP and I think maybe Haryana or somewhere, I had read that there were some petitions filed against the scrapping of the labor laws. I guess it is something related to that, which is possibly today's Supreme Court. I think just before this show started, I heard somebody, a message coming on the chat. But what I can tell you is all these will remain as more like a FYI for some of the companies. What I've seen in the past, all this, especially for the private companies, I do not think they will be bound by these instructions for, related to a salary reduction or even retrenchment or layoffs or whatever. This may not truly apply, because all these companies, especially the tech companies, have mastered the art of managing this in the last couple of decades. I've seen myself, in leadership position in large companies as well as in some, startup. So I believe this should not be an issue. But I think some of the earlier my panelists here said, but it is necessary for us not to be ruthless, but to be sensitive and ensure that we save every job possible. I think that is the approach we have to take, rather than go by Supreme Court or any such guidelines. I think once we go by that, we will be able to maximize and have a truly positive and an optimistic situation, is what I think.
Government has realized it very well. I think Uday has already touched upon that point, that there is a lot of things which have gone from government in the last 2 days as far as enabling MSMEs to revive and sort of reboot their operations. And in those operations, and there are other measures like giving more money to employees as well as employers. And so there will be a kind of a demand generation happening, and MSMEs will be able to revive with those infusions. And they will be able to, I think, set the business continuity plan, because right now their things were closed. So they will all these measures has to kind of reboot those MSMEs only, and I think it should be taken care of.
The qualification criteria from a employer's perspective towards employees, we're definitely looking at individuals who have their personal assets, which means they have their own IT devices, they have reasonable connections at their home, so that they can immediately come on board and be productive on a work from home concept. So this has definitely become one of the pre-qualification criteria before hiring today. And yes, the geo boundaries are pretty much senseless now. And once the operations are over, the interested employees would be able to move to the eventual base location. So it is true, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities with employees with their own available IT devices and reasonable good IT connection, internet connection, are being given a preference. We ourselves are giving preference to those.
A lot of us are not finding work from very productive. I mean, there is some advantages, but there's a lot of disadvantages, especially when you have a lot of a workforce which is very young, and they were always putting on some senior person in the organization sitting next to them, guiding them. That is really not working. But what we are able to do, what we have found out, and we have, like, just in last couple of hours, we have actually hired a couple of senior resources from in a B class city in India at a much lesser package or kind of salary what we have to pay for a 1 year technical, 1 year experienced technical person here in Bangalore. So that's something which I think a lot of companies will start adopting, because it's easier to get a senior person to work from home and be productive than a fresher or a lesser experienced person, because that person will require guidance, and they need to have someone senior around them. So we will see a number of solution providers, software companies also making hires which is outside the city.
It would work out in terms of cost also. If you look at it, it'll be a considerable saving if you're hiring from a B or a C class city. And if your organization is completely enabled for work from home, it does not matter where that person is based out of. So geography, of course, it does not make any logical benefit there. So, it would help on a longer run with this work from home situation opening up. Couple of us, at least, it had happened last year that one of our key employees was moving to a C class city, and he resigned, so in fact, we said that, why don't you, for you're a technical guy, it doesn't make any difference if you're based here or wherever. So we enabled, him to work from home last year, and continue. Of course, a laptop and the mobile and everything was given by the company itself. But that has helped quite a bit. I mean, you retain your employee, and that work from home continues. If your systems are set, which I would urge all our partners to really look at certain ERP or CRM and digital solutions to expand your business out on. Work from home or work from anywhere will not matter to you. That is one very strong point that I would ask all our partners in the IT community to really focus on. Get a ERP or a CRM in place. It will help you streamline your business.
My own experience in the last 3 months talking to people is, I think the key word here is freelancers. Apart from the regular remote people who will work from B or C class cities, freelancers from these smaller towns who will do, let's say, a 3-hour job or a 4-hour job, whether it's tech or non-tech, including, like, for example, there are some excellent professors and teachers in these cities earlier who could not come and deliver lectures here. Now, with anyway online classes happening, they are able to do that. So this will open up an entire new sector called freelancers, apart from the regular work from home and remote place.
That sort of opens up a new avenue and new scope, and especially in newer areas. And since they are not moving from home, even the salaries can be more economical and more viable. Great. It was great interacting with all the panelists here.